You want to make a fancy cheese board like a pro, and that may seem daunting, but actually, it's really simple. I'll show you exactly how I go about doing it. All you need is your hands, your knife, and your ingredients. Let's start with the cheese. I have 6 today. Pleasant Ridge Reserve, Red Dragon Cheddar, Euphoria Sheep's Milk Gouda, Bailey Hazen Blue, Camembert, and Bon Bouche. We begin by removing these inedible rinds and setting them aside. You'll want to cut your pieces thin to maximize the number of slices, but not overly thin as they could become brittle and fall apart. Do note that many harder cheeses will crumble no matter what, so just do your best to keep it together. Slightly softer cheeses like this Red Dragon can be a little difficult to cut. They tend to stick to the knife, and that's where a cheese knife like this comes in handy. The cutouts cut down on the friction and allow it to pass through the cheese easier. Don't worry if you don't have one though, a regular old paring knife will do you just fine. Take it slow and cut your pieces consistently. It'll look much better in the end if you do so. We really only need to cut these harder cheeses. The 3 softer ones on the right we can just leave whole. However, I am going to cut this blue in half. And now that we've cut the cheese, let's talk about the real secret to fancy cheese boards. It's the sweet salties and savories that go along with. Like these Marcona almonds, or these black truffle cashews, or these apricots, or these chocolate covered almonds, and maybe some dried cranberries, golden raisins, something a little different like pickled green beans, or Peruvian sweet peppers, and maybe some blackberries. Alright, we did it. A professional cheese board. Not really. That was only the beginning. Grab your real board. I have a 12-inch by 18-inch slate. Look at that sheen. Do you hear that? It's the call of charcuterie. This is chorizo. It's like pepperoni, but better. We can fold it like this. Give it a nice clean edge to the side of our board. We'll speed it up here. This may seem tedious, but it's really not too bad. Do keep a towel handy as you will get a bit greasy as you do this. You will need to make sure that you have your charcuterie sliced thin, or it won't fold nicely as it is here. Just keep stacking this up. This will add both volume to our plate and give us a raised edge to contain all the goodness within. As those sweet salties and savories will attempt to escape their ultimate demise. Up next we have finocchiona. This is a salami with fennel. And yep, we'll just give it a fold here. Kiss it up to the edge. So on and so forth. You'll notice that I'm not going all the way to the right here, as I intend to put the crackers in that position. This is a nice trick to eat up some space on an otherwise oversized board, saving us some dough without diminishing the scale of our spread. For our last edge, we're going to use something a little different. It's prosciutto di Parma. It's Italian for prosciutto of Parma. This is a salted, dry-cured pig's leg. Slice razor thin, and we can just roll it up like this. See, nice and easy. Same idea as with the salamis, just roll it up and run it along the edge. You can just stack it and overlay it. It'll give us some volume and prevent the bits from rolling off the plate as they like to do. I recommend having your charcuterie sliced to order at your local deli. However, depending on who is slicing your meat for you, your slices may not always be as consistent and pretty as they appear here, but it will produce the best flavor. Alternatively, you could buy pre-sliced, pre-packaged charcuterie. It won't taste as good, but the slices will be very consistent and look very nice on a charcuterie spread. Next, we'll lay down our crackers. These are Rain Coast Crisp. They're made in Canada and are widely available all over North America. They're absolutely delicious, albeit a bit pricey, but 100% worth it. This is the rosemary raisin pecan flavor. I'm just gonna shingle them out. Nice, simple. Look how much space this eats up on our board. And you can see that we've now framed the middle of the slate and we can begin laying down our cheese. First up is a Pleasant Ridge Reserve. You can grab your cheese in little bunches like this and lay them out. They're nicely shingled. Grab a few more. You can really put these down very fast. The stacked charcuterie gives us a nice little ramp to lean our cheese up against. Notice that I've left some space between the cheese and the prosciutto that we can fill with goodies in a bit. Same thing here with the red dragon opposing. Lay it out just like so. You'll see that the cheese is very easy to move around and manipulate, get it where you want it right now. You can spread these out further to cover more surface area if you're trying to cover your board. You can also scooch them in quite easily like this and free up a little extra space. Here we're going to leave a bit of a gap between our cheeses that we can fill with some goodies to break up the color. I put down the Euphoria next right over here. It's a bit drier than the last two. You see it crumble slightly there. Our piece was a bit taller as well, so it will extend further down our board. You can just fan out the pieces in your hand and put them down, simple as that. We'll just straighten it out and put down our little camembert. I think it'll go nicely up in the corner here. And I'm going to put the Bonne Bouche in the opposing corner right down here. I like the symmetry between our two soft ripened cheeses. And now we'll put down our blue. This is why I cut it in half. I was afraid that I wouldn't have a good spot for the full piece, so I elected to do it like this. Now all of the cheese is known, we will fill in the remaining space with all of our goodies. Red Dragon is an English-made cheddar by Summerdale. It is infused with ale and mustard seed. It's got a nice spicy zing to it. So I think these pickled green beans, which have a nice spice of their own, would be a nice pairing. Above that, we're going to put in some of our Peruvian sweet peppers. Next to our Pleasant Ridge Reserve, this is an Alpine style cheese made by Uplands Cheese out of Wisconsin. It's pretty mellow with deep complex flavors and grassy, nutty, and fruity notes. It even took home Best in Show at the American Cheese Society's annual competition on 3 separate occasions. So yeah, it's pretty good. Next to it, we'll slot in our dried apricots, following up with our piedras, which are chocolate-covered La Huerta almonds that hail from Spain. They do like to roll around, so we'll just kinda wedge them in here. Extending down towards our Bailey Hazen is a cave-aged raw milk blue made by Jasper Hill Cellars out of Vermont. It's a lot like Stilton, and don't tell the Brits, but it's actually even better. We'll leave a little space here for our dried cranberries. I like using these a lot because they add a nice bright splash of color, and they're small and great for filling in all the little nooks and crannies of your board. You'll want to fill every last gap possible, as this really gives the illusion of fullness, making your board appear even larger than it really is. It's all about presentation, and eliminating all of the dead space really helps with that. The safe bet is to array your goodies near the cheeses that they'll pair nicely with. I like these cranberries and chocolate almonds with this blue, for instance. Fear not if you really have no idea what might be a nice pairing. Every artisan cheese manufacturer will have suggested pairings on their website. Don't overthink this though. Anything that tastes good will be a nice addition to your board. Just get a bunch of stuff with a variety of textures, flavors, and colors. Separate the light colors across your board and it'll turn out looking great. One thing I really like doing is surrounding wheels of brie with fresh fruit. It makes for a very nice complement and it looks very pretty in the end. This is camembert, which you can think of as a more aromatic and earthy version of brie. This particular one is made by Muco out of Colorado. It's pretty good for a domestic camembert. However, it can never be as good as the true French camemberts due to the US's restriction on raw milk cheeses aged less than 60 days. And we'll just put our finishing touches here on the blackberries. And yeah, just look at this little wheel of brie. It's like a little cheese and fruit flour. I have a few more apricots and piedras, so I'm gonna stick them right over here by the Euphoria, and that's E-W-E-Phoria. Ha, get it? It's a sheep's milk Gouda out of Holland. Do pardon my Dutch, and my Spanish, and French, and Italian, and English. Anyways, sheep's milk is very rich and translates into very tasty cheeses. The 12 months of aging has given time for this Euphoria to develop sharp and complex flavors. I like it with these big golden raisins, and again, just fill every last nook and cranny of your board. It's perfectly fine to use the same item across your board in multiple locations. This is even a good way to provide color balance. I do that here by putting more of the red sweet peppers down in this area. By the Bonne Bouche, this is an ash-ripened goat cheese made by Vermont Creamery. I'll give you one guess as to where they're from. Up in this space, I'll drop down our Marcona almonds. Notice how the nuts and a few of the cheeses are very similar in color, so I've separated them all with different colors in between. To the right of the almonds is a good spot for more of the pickled green beans. They contrast nicely between the cheeses, crackers, and nuts. When using pickled products, dry them nicely with a paper towel, or else the juices can leak and make the surrounding items soggy. You'll see that we've flipped the position of the sweet peppers and the green beans on either side of the board and created space between all of the nuts here to break the colors and bring a color balance to our board. And we're just about done here. We'll just use our last few bits to fill in any remaining gaps. And there we have it, a proper looking fancy cheese board. But how about just a final finishing touch? This is a blackberry serrano jam made by Primo, and we'll just use it to top our camembert. The tops of bries are a little boring, and this is a great way to spice it up, both literally and figuratively. You don't have to be a pro to make a cheese board that looks like you are one. Showing up with a board like this will dazzle your date, impress your friends, and have you leaving that pot lucky. The board I made here took 30 minutes and $75 in materials. It's big enough to feed a family of 6 for dinner, or be an appetizer for triple that. Goodbye and good luck, and stay fancy.